Get ready. Get set. Hold on. It's going to be one hell of a... Ooh, I'm tripping over my words already. Must be on the weekend. This is the Matuszak Show. And I'm your host, Paul-Gregory Matuszak. For this Friday, August 1st, 2014. So, who's ready for a weekend? Evidently my tongue is. It already took off. Kind of like Congress did with speed last night. There are a couple of last-minute votes in the evening, especially over in the Senate. But for the most part, a good chunk of your representatives and senators saw that clock on the wall, counted it down, the closing bell rang, school's out for the summer, and they're gone. And I have that date for the next scheduled votes, folks. I was saying it was September 4th. I was incorrect. It is going to be on Monday, September 8th. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, your fine legislators, your elected leaders that you have sent to Washington are on recess from now until September 8th. Now, like I said yesterday, you guys need to keep your eyes open there. For example, if you live in a certain congressional district, keep your eyes out for your particular congressman or congresswoman, your representative, holding some town halls and meetings and stuff. I mean, come on. This is a midterm election year, so you know they're going to be having fundraisers and giving out campaign speeches and stuff. You know they're going to be doing that. So if you want to be really, really hinky and cool here, what you do is make yourself a little bit of a chart. It doesn't take much. You can probably do it on an index card. But go around, and every time you see them scheduling a fundraiser during this month, put a check mark in fundraiser. Every time you see them doing a campaign speech stop, go ahead and put a little tick mark under campaign. And when they're actually going out and doing a town hall meeting and doing their job, the purpose behind the actual purpose behind the recess, that's to go out and find out what's going on with their constituents. When they're doing their job, put a tick mark there. And when they're doing none of the above, when they're in Majorca, or when your representative from Oklahoma or New Mexico or Texas is off in Honolulu or someplace other than their district or their state, put a tick mark over there too. Now senators, that's going to be a little bit of a different thing, because senators do have to do some overseas travel as part of their job, doing the oversight and everything like that. So some of them, for confirmation hearings and etc., may have to take some overseas trips. But keep your eye on what they're doing. Are they going to places that are vacation spots? Or are they going to places where they really need to see what's going on with American citizens in that particular area? Or check to see how treaties are working, or if a treaty that's been proposed but hasn't been ratified yet by the Senate, how it would affect that country as well as the U.S. So they're kind of doing their job if they're doing that. Some of them, especially if they're not facing re-election, may be visiting other states to support other people's campaigns. So again, take out your little index card and make one for each one of your senators and put a little tick mark. Campaigning or fundraising for somebody else, doing their job, making their visits or whatever that they have to in order to better do their job as a legislator and as a senator, or when they're actually going and doing their town halls and meeting with the people. And kind of make your own report card on how well your congressmen, your senators, and your representatives are doing during this recess, because this recess is not supposed to be a vacation time. Now, does that mean that they don't deserve to go and take a week or two out of the month and a little bit over a month and go and enjoy their family and get some decompressed time and stuff? Of course they do. Just like you and I do. You earn up your vacation time, you plan that trip to SeaWorld or Six Flags or Disneyland or Legoland or wherever, yeah, you deserve to take your little family trip to unwind and enjoy some family time. And they do as well. But if the majority of the month is spent doing stuff like that instead of doing what they're supposed to be doing, well, then it might be time to look at voting for somebody else. Or, if they're not for re-election, in the case of some senators, it might be time to send them a little bit of a letter saying, hey, buddy, I voted for you. Maybe you did or maybe you didn't. They don't know. And I notice you're up for re-election in 4 years or so. But I can tell you right now, your track record, because you just spent the recess swimming in Majorca and going to Belize instead of doing your job, it looks like you're not doing your job. So, yeah, you might want to tighten up there, buddy. Just some food for thought on how you can take back your own government there. So, that's my little, beginning rant for this wonderful Freedom Friday. But, like I have said in previous Fridays, and I'm going to say it again, just like those senators and congressmen who may take a few days for family, remember, for most of us who work a Monday through Friday job, you're coming up on the weekend. So that means today, like Congress was supposed to yesterday, and probably didn't, today is your wrap it up for the week day. Today is a day that you need to make sure you get all those loose ends tied up, get everything done, finish everything that you're supposed to get done for the week. Maybe even get to start on some Monday stuff if you can. You get as much of that knocked out as you can. Why? Because you don't want to be sitting over the weekend thinking about, Monday morning you have to go in and rush to finish something that you didn't get done before going home on Friday. But the other thing is, once you've finished all that stuff you're supposed to get done for the day and for the week, and you're ready to head home, not only are you free to enjoy your weekend, which you've earned, but you have that sense of accomplishment there. You accomplished this, you finished this, you made this. Now it's time to enjoy that pursuit of happiness. Enjoy the fruits of your labors and enjoy the weekend. So that's where you need to be kind of aiming at for today, folks. I know it sounds like I'm preaching to work harder than necessary. Well, if you worked that hard every day, then today would be a pretty light day, wouldn't it? Because there wouldn't be much to tighten up. You'd probably be done by noon. So keep that in mind too, folks. Yeah, but that just comes from my years and years and years of being a soldier. So I don't know what it's like out in that big bad civilian world. I had the easy job for 24 years. Anyway, again, welcome to this Freedom Friday. And I'm trying to look for some happy things to talk about today.
You don't have a right to know everything in a separation of powers government, my friend. That is the difference between a parliamentary government and a separation of powers government.
Well, thank you for that happy 2 cents, Representative Norton. I hate to tell you, but I disagree with you, and so does the U.S. Constitution, and so does anybody who actually passed their 8th grade civics class. So, I just have a serious question for Eleanor Norton. What the heck is a separation of powers government? I want a class from her. I want a serious, honest-to-goodness class on what the heck a separation of powers government is. Because I've never heard of that, not expressed that way. Unless what she means is some kind of a tyrannical government where the powers are separated from the people. I've heard of that. That was called a feudal government. It's called tyranny. And we don't live in a tyranny or a tyrannical government. At least we're not supposed to. Our system of government should not be. The Constitution kind of prevents that and says that, the people of our country are not separate from the government. In fact, the government cannot exist without the will of the governed. And that comes right from the Declaration of Independence. Anyway, on a happy note, we all know that she's a kook. Another happy note is I put up a couple of stories yesterday on BuzzPo, one right after the other. And both of them kind of centered around a single individual. And I've received a lot of feedback, not directly to me, but I've seen a lot of people's comments on this individual, and they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? They're praiseworthy. A lot of people like what this individual, and of course he's not doing it alone, but what he's doing with the stand he's making. And of course I'm referring to wonderful Governor Rick Perry, who is standing up against all kinds of things coming out of the federal government, whether it's their lack of action or it's them widening up loopholes so they don't have to enforce laws on the books or what have you. But one of the things that Governor Perry did was there were several laws recently passed in Texas, the last legislative section, which I think was the 83rd, but it was in 2013. And through that, him and the Texas Veterans Administration, or Veterans Affairs Bureau, has been able to increase quite a few programs for veterans. And it seems that these expansions didn't come a moment too soon because of all the problems we're having with the VA. So, here's what Governor Perry has done to try to help out residents of Texas who happen to be veterans who may be having some problems of one sort or another. So let's see if we can hear the governor's own words.
Our men and women in uniform have valiantly served and profoundly sacrificed for our nation. That's why Texas is expanding staffing at the Texas Veterans Hotline with experts trained to help veterans deal with the VA. Callers can learn what they qualify for, and in the most urgent cases, TVC experts will work directly with the VA to help veterans get the answers and care they need and deserve. Call the hotline at 1-800-252-VETS. Thank you.
Once again, in case you didn't hear that number, and you happen to be listening from Texas, or if you're listening in another state and know somebody who lives in Texas who's a veteran, whether they're still active service and stationed here and planning on getting out soon or not, if they're here, it kind of helps them out too, because Texas has some good programs for active military that kind of gives them honorary Texas residency if they want it. Anyway, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But that number was 1-800-252-VETS. So go ahead and if you know somebody that needs help, or they don't know if they need help or not, they just know that they're having a little bit of difficulty even getting answers to see if there is something that can be done or can't be done, or if you've had issues trying to navigate the good old secret waiting lists and the gaming of the electronic wait list system, well, go ahead and call that number or refer your friend and tell them to pick up the phone, and it's a toll-free number if you live in Texas. That's, again, 1-800-252-VETS, V-E-T-S. If you're not sure what those numbers are, I don't have a phone right in front of me at the moment, so I can't tell you what those numbers translate to. But you just look down and look at the numbers and see where the letters kind of correspond there. If you have trouble reading the phone, you can go over to BuzzPo, and you can look at this article, and it's up on the video. In fact, you don't even have to play the video. The thumbnail of the video that's there has the number right there on it. You can take a look. So, that's my little talk about what Governor Perry and the state of Texas is doing for veterans. But that's not really what they're doing for veterans, is it? That's just them opening up and saying, hey, we have a helpline here, and go ahead and call it. But what kinds of things have they done? I kind of follow veterans issues legislation out of pure self-interest. I'm a veteran, and so is the free-range Texan. So we have a lot of veterans in my family. My father as well, and my spouse's father, my wife's father. So, again, we're a military family, so we kind of want to know what's going on with veterans issues. So I, with great interest, read several of the proposed veterans bills in the last Texas legislature that went through, including one that kind of surprised me. I don't know if you call it a veterans bill or not, but when they gave Audie Murphy the Texas Medal of Honor, which I thought was a cool thing. Should have gotten it to him when he was still alive, but hey, better late than never. Anyway, they've done all sorts of things, and many of these bills were sponsored or co-sponsored, or co-authored, I think is what they call it here in Texas, by Senator Letitia Van de Putte. Now, one thing I want to warn everybody is, when you look at these bills and they sound like they're doing something great and wonderful, look at the fine print, look for the strings attached, because usually there are some, especially if certain names are ascribed to the bills, like, let me pull one out of a hat of somebody who might actually put a string on actually compensating veterans for what they've already done, making sure they get what they're owed. Now, who would put strings on something that they owe somebody already? Oh, Letitia Van de Putte. Anyway, got to take the good with the bad, right? But many of these bills got passed. They had overwhelming bipartisan support, and they include all sorts of things, programs to help veterans who may or may not have experienced a traumatic brain injury, meaning they were too close to an explosion or got bounced around or fell too hard or were playing volleyball on the fob because they're fobbits. For those people who don't know what a fobbit is, that's somebody who deploys, but then they sit on the operating base there and never go outside the wire, never go out in sector and have to deal with the actual operations themselves. So maybe they're playing volleyball on the fob and caught a volleyball too hard in the head and got knocked around and got a concussion. Concussion is a form of TBI. It's a MTBI, mild traumatic brain injury. How can it be mild and traumatic? I'm guessing that's kind of a oxymoron. But for those that had that kind of a injury or think they may have sustained something and they're not sure, Texas has increased a means for them to get screened. So, if you're not sure and you want to know why you're stumbling over words or have what in the Army we called CRS syndrome, that's can't remember stuff syndrome. Of course, we substitute that stuff for another S word. I have to have something going on like that. And it doesn't matter whether it was, 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because sometimes it takes a while for these things to manifest. It doesn't hurt to go in and get screened. And another thing is PTSD. Most people think, they come home and, people are messed up right away. It takes a minimum of 90 days before any of the symptoms start to surface. Sometimes it could take a year or two before they really start to manifest and it's something identifiable. They may be underlying and gradually building. So, if you need to get checked out and you need to get help, or not even sure if you need help, you just want somebody to say, no, you're okay, you're all right, just in case, kind of check. They did have established a system. Now, once again, there's strings attached, so got to be careful because there are federal level policies that make people believe that they can take away your Second Amendment rights simply because you go and see help because you got your bell rung once or twice when you were serving your country. But that's one of the programs that's here in Texas, is a state-level program to assist the VA, actual federal VA, with MTBI and PTSD screenings. And then another great thing done here in Texas was, and other states have done this too, if you get out of the service, doesn't matter where you were born, where you're from, where what's called your home of record is, in other words, the place that you were when you signed up to join the military, which is considered your legal home until you get out. Doesn't matter where that is, and doesn't matter where you actually separate from the service. If you decide that you want to go to a Texas university, something that's within the Texas University.